As you work with text on the canvas, there may be times when you need to transform that text in some type of different way. It may be you need to rotate it, or scale it, or just move it somewhere on the XY coordinate system. So in this demonstration, I'm going to show how we can work with transformations and text. So you can see that I already have a font defined, 30-point Arial, and we're writing out some text, regular text, to the XY coordinate. So let's go ahead and run this, and you'll see that we just see regular text. Now, what if we wanted to move this text and flip it on its side, though? So flip it basically so it's vertical. Very useful in situations like charting, for example. How do we do that? Well, fortunately, the canvas has some built-in transform functions built in, such as translate, which moves along the XY coordinate system, and we also have the rotate, which can allow us to flip text in some type of different direction based on degrees. So to get started, I'm going to define a rotated text string here. And what we're going to do is go ahead and fill this. We're going to take the rotated text. I'm going to put it at 0, 0 right now. And if we run it, it'll show up in the upper left-hand corner, and you can't even really see it because of where it's rendering it right now. But we have rotated text. So what's going to happen now is I want to rotate it on its side. So to do that, we can come up above and tell the context that I would like to rotate the next thing that's going to happen. And we're going to rotate using the same types of concepts I described in a previous section on the arcs and circles. We're going to rotate it 0.5, but I want a negative 0.5. So just to keep it real clear, we'll do 0.5 times math.pi. Now 0.5 normally, 0 is on the right, 0.5 is on the very bottom of a circle. Negative 0.5 is going to rotate it back up to the top. So we're basically going up 90 degrees. Alright, now if we do this, the problem is I can run it, but everything's off the screen at this point. It's over here somewhere. And so what I need to do is actually tell the canvas that I want to translate this over and down a certain amount and then rotate it. We'll do that by calling a translate function, which is another type of a transform. We're going to go over 100 pixels and down 300 pixels in this particular demonstration. Let's go ahead and run that now, and you'll notice we now get the rotated text. Now, the challenge with this is getting the translate right, of course, because, for instance, if I was just to come down maybe 100, let's run that, and you'll notice where it currently is showing. So you kind of have to play with this a little bit to get it positioned right on the XY coordinate system, but that's what the translate is for. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, let's say that we want to go in and we want to add in a bottom set of text, which is just regular text below this one, but I want it to be horizontal, not vertical. So I'm going to grab our same type of text, but I'm going to cut and paste in a little bit of code here. And we're going to take the width of whatever we rotated, so our text, in this case rotated text, which takes into account the font, of course. We're going to measure that, get the width, and then I'm going to fill some text, which I'm going to use the same thing as I did up here, regular text, put it at 100, same as this, but I want the Y to be below where this one shows. So I'm going to take the width of that, because keep in mind it's now flipped, so the width represents the height of that text, and I'm going to add 120. Now if we run this, it's not going to be quite what I wanted. You'll notice that it's still rotated. I wanted it right down here, though. It's not what happened. Now the reason for this is once we switch the rotate and do the translate and all of that, the context of our canvas stays in that mode. So everything I draw from now on will be rotated, and that's not what I want. I want to do a temporary rotate and translate, and then switch back to normal, and then draw this. And the way we can do that is by saving the current state of the canvas, the current context. We'll do the translate and the rotate. We'll go ahead and fill it. That'll draw our vertical text. And then we'll restore the canvas or the context back to what it was before we did the rotate. So you can almost think of this as taking a snapshot of where things are right here. Then we'll go ahead and translate and rotate, draw out our text. Then we're going to restore back to the original snapshot. Now this will be just like normal, and we'll be back to horizontal text. So let's go ahead and save this and run it. And there we go. So you'll notice that we wrote out what we had to start, which is pretty simple. We rotate it. We save, though, before we did that, so it saves the state of the context before we rotate. Do the rotate and the translate. Then we restore it back to where we were, and that way it'll be back to normal as we start to draw. Now, if I wanted everything to stay rotated by this kind of 90 degrees, then we could certainly do that, of course, and just not do the save and the restore. But these are really, really useful little tricks to know as you work with the canvas, especially if you're building a custom chart or anything where the text won't necessarily be vertical. And this applies to not just text, by the way. We can use the save, the translate, the rotate, and others with other types of shapes as well. So that's an example of working with transforms and text.